What is up, ladies and gentle nerds? It's your boy Graham, also known as HamHawks42 on the internet, and today we are going to be looking at another random magic card. So we are on gatherer.wizards.com. I'm going to go ahead and hit that random card button. Interesting. Today we are looking at Mystic Might. Okay, now this is one that I have not seen before, so this is going to be a first. This is a rare from Ice Age. It is an enchant land for one blue, which is interesting. Already, I'm really kind of digging this because it's something that we don't see very often. It's a land enchantment in blue. Um, yeah, and it only costs one, so that's interesting. It's a land enchantment that could theoretically come down as early as turn one. Also has some gorgeous artwork, but we'll get to that. So let's just take a look. What does this card do? Cumulative upkeep, one generic and a blue. Ouch, that's huge. Okay. When Mystic Might comes into play, choose target land you control. Okay, so you have to control the land, and then you can pay 0. Tap land that Mystic Might enchants to give target creature +2/+2 until end of turn. Huh, that's interesting. I think I like this a lot, actually. Um, yeah, okay, so the Oracle text, the updated version, is cumulative upkeep, one generic and a blue. Enchanted land has tap. Target creature gets +2/+2 till end of turn. Yeah, I think I like that. And I think I like that a lot because there are a lot of unique instances that allow you to untap your lands. So there are cards like the name is escaping me right now. Um, there are a lot of there are cards like Rewind, like Snap, that are cards that when you cast them, you then untap lands after they resolve. So those would allow you to theoretically untap the Mystic Might land and be able to tap it again to add additional stuff. There's also Stone Cedar Hierophant is a creature that allows you to untap lands. You also have things like Kiora's Follower. So being able to create a pump on a land is actually really cool, especially in blue, because blue is a color where you don't often see those types of abilities. Yeah, you don't generally get to pump a creature in blue. So that's pretty cool. This actually is this is giving me some, it's reminding me quite a bit of a card called Unstable Mutation. Unstable Mutation? No, not Unstable Mutation. It's Unstable, might be Unstable Mutation now that I think about it. Anyway, regardless, it's an enchantment that gives a creature that I think costs only one blue, and a creature gets +3/+3, but on your upkeep, you have to put a -1/-1 counter on it, and so it becomes significantly stronger for one turn, and then it like slowly starts to, to die away. And see, that's the kind of blue pump that exists in older sets that you just don't see much anymore. And so something like this, where you're able to grant a land the ability to buff a creature, now the expense on it is huge. And so this coming down on turn one makes no sense. You will never play this on turn one, because what would end up happening is you play one island, you tap enchant Mystic Might onto that island. Next turn you untap, you have to play the cumulative upkeep, and you can't because you don't have a second land in play. So you just immediately dies. So that's not worth anything. If it wasn't for that cumulative upkeep, I think this card would be really good. Like not actually, that's the thing. No, this card would not be really good. This card would be perfectly fine if it wasn't for that cumulative upkeep, and it would actually provide a really impressive tempo advantage early in the game and potentially in some competitive games. Where at being able to at instant speed grant any one of your creatures +2/+2, that is not, I mean, that's not messing around. That's no joke. That's a legit combat trick that could really make a significant difference, and it's definitely going to impact the way that your opponent blocks. Yeah, I mean, I like the ability, I like the effect, but like so many other cards with cumulative upkeep, the cumulative upkeep is just a little too high, and so as a result, it's just not quite going to get there. Because the idea of, yeah, so this is the kind of trick that if you're going to use it, you need to put it down on the turn that you win the game. It's one of those where it needs to be part of the deal to close it out. Otherwise, it's just not going to get there. You know, the design on this card is interesting. I like the concept, and I appreciate that the ability it grants has a lot of potential to be incredibly powerful. I mean, consider this. If you have two 1/1s down and you swing, and your opponent has a 1/1 and a 3/3, how do they block? Because if they block both of them, two of those 1/1s are the 1/1 is just it has the potential to just straight up trade, or so all of a sudden what your opponent could be seeing is they could have a 3/3 blocking a 3/3. They could have and a 1/1 blocking a 1/1. They could have a 3/3 blocking a 1/1 and a 1/1 blocking a 3/3. And depending on what other effects, what other bonuses those things have, that would really impact which ones are valuable and how you want to trade. And you as the attacker hold the choice over what gets buffed. And so it's up to you to decide where that gets assigned, and that can get really interesting. And you can create some bizarre dynamics on the field with that. That's fun. I like that. I especially like it when the attacker holds some kind of card, some kind of bonus, because right now in combat, and by design, and I think it's a good design, the defender gets an advantage in that they get to declare the blockers. So if you're going to attack, you got to mean it, because not only you're committing to swinging, so your creatures aren't going to be back to block next turn in most cases. I know vigilance is its own thing, as is blink effects, kind of being able to give that pseudo vigilance. But 90% of the time, when you attack, you don't leave blockers back. Okay, and then on top of that, your opponent gets to assign how the blockers are going to be interacting with those attackers. So you don't have the control that you really need in order. So the attacker has to be like the attack has to be significantly more powerful than the blockers, generally speaking, in order to be worth it. And that's one of the reasons why we have so many like upon attack, upon combat damage to player like triggers, and not to mention first strike, death touch, trample, all these things that kind of complicate the matter. That way, combat just becomes a puzzle every time, and that's part of the fun of the game is putting that together and solving for that puzzle. And Mystic Might actually presents a really interesting wrinkle in that puzzle. But again, the cumulative upkeep is just way too expensive. The idea that by the second turn you'd have this down, you have to pay 4 just to keep it around. You'd have to pay into like 5 mana into this just to own this for 2 turns. I mean, that's disgusting. Like that's actually no, that's not right. Because you'd pay 1 to put it down, you'd pay 2 the first turn it comes down, and then you have to pay 4 the next turn it comes down. So I mean, you'd have to pay 7 mana. Am I doing my math right? Yikes! No, that mana cost is just absolutely obscene. I like the design; it's a cool card. Um, Unfortunately, the mana cost is just way too high. And on top of that, if you're actually using the ability on this, it's tying up one of your lands. So you're choosing to be down a land if you have this in play. So I would be shocked if even back in Ice Age this thing was decent enough to actually see play, which is a real shame because again, I love the design, I love the idea. The idea of a pump on a land is cool. I like that. I love giving my lands non-combat or non-mana abilities. I love that stuff. That makes me happy. Um, yeah, I have to admit, I had a couple of friends with Squirrel Nest decks back in the day that I was very jealous of. I wanted to get my hands on some of those. If you're not familiar, Squirrel Nest is an enchantment that you can put on a land, and you can tap it to create a 1/1 squirrel token. Um, yeah, and there are degenerate combos that can go infinite with that in pretty fantastic fashion, and it's just fun. Anyway, so that's what this is kind of reminding me of. Mystic Might here. It's interesting. So the artwork is a beautiful scene of what appears to be a full moon on a cloudy night through the branches of a dead or dormant tree. It looks very similar to something that you'd expect to see on like Innistrad or, well, in kind of a gothic horror, film or something of that nature. So I mean, it's a lovely scene. The sense of depth is very real. It's very evident. And actually, one of the things with older sets, when you look back at Ice Age, when you look back at Fallen Empires, when you look back at Antiquities, a lot of the artwork, it becomes a little like sometimes I find it can be difficult to discern exactly what's happening within the piece, because the art direction was not quite as consistent as it is today, and so sometimes, and also the worlds that they took place in didn't seem to be super consistent either. Um, And maybe that was a matter of the art direction. I'm not exactly sure. I wasn't there, but this is a lovely image. It is very clear what's happening. It's very well crafted. The it scales very well down to the size of a card. Um, but what I don't understand is what it has to do with the card's ability. It's, you're seeing a full moon on a cloudy night through a dormant tree. What does that have to do with the land buffing a creature? Are we to fill in the blanks and assume that the creature that it's buffing is like a werewolf and the full moon is what's granting its ability? Because I feel like that's a huge stretch. What I think is probably more likely is somebody had this artwork for a different card, and it ended up getting put on Mystic Might because it didn't have anything else to fit it. That's my guess. I could be wrong. Yeah, I feel like the full moon thing is a little bit of a stretch, but I can't see any other connection that this has to granting strength to a creature. Honestly, I got nothing. Um, yeah, I mean, this is the kind of image that I would expect to see on a card like Darkest Hour, which is an enchantment for one that causes all creatures to become black. Like that kind of a thing is like, okay, because there's kind of this ominous atmosphere, this mood that is being set. Yeah, you definitely want something that has to do with that. Yeah, I don't see it. Yeah, and again, cumulative upkeep, just in general, the cumulative upkeep is one of those abilities that is just so crippling. The tempo disadvantage, the amount of mana you have to sink into these cards, I mean, it's just not worth it generally. Now I find myself wondering the name Mystic Might. I'm wondering if Mystic Remora came down around the same time, because that was another one drop enchantment with, I believe it was a cumulative upkeep. So I'm wondering if that was part of a cycle, maybe, but I don't know. But yeah, all in all, I would not. Yeah, I wouldn't. I'm not gonna grab this. And I got to admit, if I crack a pack of Ice Age and this is my rare, I'm pretty frustrated. Yeah, that's just no bueno. Anyway, interesting though. It's interesting. There's definitely some interesting pieces to it. I think the idea is really solid. The idea of creating a buff on a land by way of an aura is cool. I like that. I want to see something like that. And I'm sure there are other versions of it, but yeah, this particular one missed the mark, I think. Anyway, this has been fun, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out. I stream over on Twitch, twitch.tv/hamhocks42. This show is available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. So if you are listening to this, thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to see what I look like as well as the artwork on the card itself, it's available on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, hey, how's it going? All right, have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.